The fluorescent lights hummed their mechanical lullaby as Marcus Chen pushed his cleaning cart down aisle 7. 3:47 a.m., the graveyard shift at Walmart where dreams came to die and college loans came to get paid. He'd taken this job 3 months ago, right after dropping out of medical school. Not because he wanted to, but because sometimes life forces your hand. His younger sister Amy needed him. Their parents were gone, and the foster system was circling like vultures. So Marcus had made his choice, sacrifice his future to protect hers. "Still here, Chen?" A gravelly voice cut through his thoughts. Marcus turned to find Dale, the night manager, lurking at the end of the aisle. Dale was a hulking man in his 50s, with yellowed teeth and eyes that seemed to catalog your every weakness. In the 3 months Marcus had worked here, he'd learned to hate that voice, that sneer, that casual cruelty Dale wielded like a weapon. "Just finishing my rounds," Marcus replied. Keeping his tone neutral, Dale's lips curled into something approximating a smile. "You know, Chen, I've been thinking. Your sister Amy, right? Cute kid? Saw her picture on your phone once. What is she, 15? Marcus's hands tightened on the mop handle. 16. 16. Dale rolled the word around in his mouth like hard candy. Difficult age. Lots of needs. Expensive needs. Would be a shame if her big brother couldn't provide for her anymore. The threat hung in the air between them, unspoken, but crystal clear. Dale had been playing this game for weeks now, dangling Marcus's job security like bait, making demands. Extra shifts. Covering for other workers. Taking the blame when inventory went missing. But tonight, something in Dale's eyes was different. Hungrier. "I need you to do something for me," Dale said, stepping closer. The smell of cigarettes and stale coffee wafted off him. "There's a delivery coming in through the back. Off the books. You're going to help me unload it, and you're going to keep your mouth shut. Understand?" Marcus's medical training kicked in, reading the signs, dilated pupils, elevated pulse visible in his neck, the slight tremor in his hands. Dale was on something, and whatever was in that delivery, it wasn't Walmart merchandise. "I don't want any trouble," Marcus said carefully. Dale's hand shot out, gripping Marcus's shoulder with bruising force. "That's good, Chen, because trouble is the last thing you want. Not when little Amy depends on you so much. Would be a real tragedy if something happened to her while her big brother was busy playing hero." The words detonated in Marcus's chest like a grenade. This wasn't just about a job anymore. This was a direct threat against his sister. Loading dock. 30 minutes. Dale released him and walked away, his laughter echoing down the empty aisles. Marcus stood frozen, mind racing. He could walk awake with right now. Call the police. But Dale had connections. The kind of connections that made evidence disappear and witnesses reconsider their testimonies. The kind that could hurt Amy before any investigation even began. He pulled out his phone. Checking the security camera app Amy had convinced him to install on their apartment door. There she was, safe in her bed, 17 miles away, but feeling like a world apart. Her dark hair fanned across the pillow, her face peaceful in sleep. She'd spent all evening helping him study for the medical licensing exam he was still desperately hoping to take someday. "I'll figure this out, Amy," he whispered to the screen. "I promise." But as he made his way toward the loading dock, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that he was walking into something far worse than he imagined. The loading dock smelled of rust and motor oil. A single bulb swung overhead, casting dancing shadows across the concrete. Marcus arrived to find Dale wasn't alone. 3 men stood in the darkness beyond the loading bay door. Marcus couldn't make out their features, but their body language spoke volumes. Ends, alert, dangerous. One of them was holding something that caught the light. A gun. Right on time, Dale said, that same predatory smile stretching his face. "See, boys. I told you Chen was reliable." The back of a semi-truck yawned open like a mechanical mouth. Inside, Marcus could see wooden crates, dozens of them marked with symbols he didn't recognize. "What is this?" Marcus asked, his voice barely steady. "Business," Dale replied. "The kind that pays a hell of a lot better than mopping floors. You help us tonight, and there's $5,000 in it for you." More than enough to keep little Amy comfortable. $5,000. It would cover rent for months. Buy Amy the laptop she needed for school. Maybe even let Marcus afford a few review courses for his medical boards. But the gun in that man's? Hand told him exactly what kind of business this was. I can't. Marcus started. The man with the gun stepped into the light. He was young, maybe Marcus's age, with a scar running from his left eye to his jaw. You can, and you will. Unless you want to find out how fast we can drive to apartment 3B on Riverside Avenue. Marcus's blood turned to ice. They knew where Amy was. They'd done their homework. Smart kid, Dale said, clapping Marcus on the shoulder. Now grab a dolly and start moving boxes. We've got 2 hours before the morning shift arrives. For the next hour and 45 minutes, Marcus worked in silent horror, moving crates that clinked with the sound of pills and powders that would destroy lives across the city. Every box he carried felt like another brick in his own prison. Every minute that passed was another minute he became complicit in something unforgivable. But Amy's face kept floating in his mind. Her laugh when she beat him at video games. Her determination when she studied. Her tears the night their parents died, when she'd clutched his shirt and begged him not to leave her alone. He couldn't fail her. Not now. Not ever. The last crate was being loaded onto the dolly when Marcus heard a sound that made his trained medical ears perk up. A whimper. Small, frightened, and distinctly human, it came from one of the crates still in the truck. Keep moving, Dale barked, but Marcus had already frozen, his eyes locked on that particular box. It was larger than the others, with air holes drilled in the sides. What's in that one? Marcus asked. The man with the scar moved between Marcus and the crate. None of your business. But Marcus was already moving, his body acting before his brain could stop him. He shoved past the gunman, grabbed a crowbar leaning against the truck's interior, and jammed it under the crate's lid. Chen. Dale's warning came too late. The crate splintered open. Inside, bound and gagged, eyes wide with terror, was a girl. She couldn't have been more than 14. With bruises covering her arms and dried blood under her nose, Marcus's world tilted sideways. This wasn't just drugs. This was human trafficking. Oh, Chen, Dale said softly, and there was genuine sadness in his voice. You really shouldn't have done that. The gunshot cracked through the loading dock like thunder. Marcus felt the bullet before he heard it, a white-hot lance of agony through his left shoulder. He stumbled backward, crashing into a stack of pallets. The girl in the crate screamed through her gag. Grab him! Dale shouted. Hands seized Marcus, dragging him across the concrete. Blood poured from his shoulder, hot and sticky. His medical training cataloged the injury automatically, through and through, missed the brachial artery by inches. Survivable if treated quickly, but treatment wasn't coming. They threw him into the break room cooler, the walk-in freezer, where they stored the perishables. The temperature was barely above freezing. With his blood loss and the shock setting in, hypothermia would kill him in hours. Dale's face appeared in the narrowing gap of the door. I really am sorry about this, Chen. You were a good worker. But you know too much now, and my partners don't leave loose ends. In the morning, we'll discover your body. Tragic accident. Worker locked himself in the freezer by mistake. He paused, considering. Don't worry about Amy. We'll take good care of her. She'll fetch a good price. The door slammed shut. Darkness swallowed Marcus's whole, broken only by the dim red emergency light in the corner. The cold bit into his skin immediately, merciless and absolute. He pressed his good hand against his wounded shoulder, trying to slow the bleeding, but he could already feel his strength draining away. Amy. He had to survive for Amy. Marcus dragged himself to his feet, using the shelving for support. The emergency release there had to be an emergency release. OSHA required it. He felt along the door, his fingers growing numb, searching desperately. Nothing. They single quotes removed it. Or it had never been installed in the first place. Code violations were the least of Dale's concerns. His phone. Marcus fumbled for his pocket, but his hand came away empty. They'd taken it. The cold was working faster now, seeping into his bones. His thoughts began to slow, growing sluggish. Medical training whispered the symptoms. Stage 1 hypothermia setting in. Shivering, confusion, loss of coordination to follow. He sank to the floor. Back against the door, watching his breath plume in the frigid air. "I'm sorry, Amy," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." His eyes drifted closed, and then, in the darkness, something moved at first. Marcus thought it was hallucination. Hypothermia could cause that. But the sound was real, a wet, dragging noise, like something being pulled across the floor. The red emergency light flickered. Marcus forced his eyes open. Squinting into the shadows between the shelves, there in the back corner, where the light barely reached, something was there. Something that hadn't been there before. A shape, human-sized but wrong somehow, its proportions distorted. It stood motionless, just beyond the reach of the light. "Hello?" Marcus's voice cracked. Maybe it was a worker. Someone who could help. The shape moved forward, and Marcus's blood froze colder than the air around him. It was a woman. Or had been. Her Walmart vest was soaked with something dark and viscous. Her name tag read Jennifer, but the name was obscured by what looked like old bloodstains. Her face was pale, her eyes completely black, not just the irises, but the entire eye like pools of ink, and she was smiling. "You can see me," she said, her voice like wind through a graveyard. "Finally, someone can see me." Marcus tried to back away, but he was already against the door. The woman Jennifer glided closer, and he could see now that her feet didn't quite touch the ground. "You're not real," he gasped. "Hypothermia. Hypoxia. My brain is shutting down." "I'm very real," Jennifer said. "As real as you'll be soon. As real as all of us." She gestured to the shadows, and Marcus's heart stopped. They emerged from the darkness, like photographs developing figures in Walmart vests. Faces twisted in agony or rage or desperate fear. Men and women of all ages, all bearing the marks of violent death. A young man with his throat slit. An older woman with her skull caved in. A teenager with ligature marks around her neck. 7 of them. 7 dead workers, standing in a freezer that shouldn't exist in their world anymore. "Dale's been busy," Jennifer said conversationally. "For 15 years, he's been using this place. Drugs, guns, people. Whatever pays. And anyone who found out, anyone who tried to stop him..." She touched her chest, where the dark stain spread. "We became inventory that never made it onto the books." "This isn't happening," Marcus whispered. But even as he said it, he knew it was useless. The cold was real. The blood loss was real. And these spirits, these echoes of Dale's victims, were just as real. "You're dying," Jennifer said gently. "Your body temperature is dropping. Your organs are starting to fail. In another hour, you'll join us." She knelt beside him, her face inches from his. "Unless you want to fight back." "How?" Marcus's lips were barely moving now, his shivering so violent he could hardly speak. "I'm locked in. I'm dying." Jennifer's black eyes seemed to see straight through him. "We're locked here too. Bound to the place of our death. But you're standing in between. Still alive, but touching death. You can see us because you're walking the line." Another spirit moved forward, the young man with the slit throat. When he spoke, his voice whistled through the wound. "We can give you strength. Our rage, our need for justice. It won't heal you, but it will keep you moving. Keep you alive long enough to stop him. And save your sister," Jennifer added. Because Dale meant what he said. By morning, she'll be gone. Sold to the same monsters who trafficked those girls in the crates. Amy, the thought of her in that crate, terrified and alone, ignited something in Marcus's fading consciousness. A spark of pure, undiluted fury. "What do I have to do?" Jennifer smiled, and this time it was genuine, fierce, and terrible. "Let us in. Let us share your body, your breath, your rage. We'll give you the strength of the dead, and you'll give us the chance to finally make him pay. And after, you get justice. We get peace. And Dale gets exactly what he deserves." Marcus looked at the spirits surrounding him, victims who'd been silenced, forgotten, erased from history by a monster in a manager's vest. He thought of Amy, innocent and unaware of the danger speeding toward her. He thought of the girl in the crate, and all the other victims whose lives were being destroyed while good people stood by and did nothing. He'd spent 3 months being afraid, being complicit, being weak, no more. "Do it," Marcus said. The spirits moved as one. They flowed into him like ice water through his veins. 7 lifetimes of rage and pain and desperate need for justice pouring into his dying body. Marcus screamed, but the sound was lost in the chorus of voices that suddenly filled his head. Jennifer's voice, and 6 others, all speaking at once, all driving him forward. His eyes snapped open, and they were no longer brown. They were black. All black. Marcus stood, and the cold no longer touched him. His wounded shoulder still bled, but the pain was distant, manageable. The spirits burned inside him like a furnace, fueling his body with something that transcended mere adrenaline. He turned to the door that had been his 2-man drove. His fist into it, the metal crumpled like paper. The alarm started wailing the moment. Marcus's fist punched through the freezer door. Somewhere in the store's security office, red lights would be flashing. But Marcus didn't care about alarms anymore. He was beyond caring about a lot of things. He tore the door off its hinge, literally ripped it from the frame with a strength it shouldn't have been possible. The spirits inside him were a roaring tide, 7 voices crying out for vengeance. And his body was simply the vessel they'd been waiting 15 years to fill. The break room was empty, but Marcus could hear voices echoing from the loading dock. Dale's voice raised in anger. They'd heard the alarm. Good. Let them hear. Marcus walked through the break room, and in the reflection of the vending machine glass, he caught sight of himself. His eyes were still that bottomless black, and shadows seemed to cling to his skin like cobwebs. Blood still seeped from his shoulder, but the wound wasn't slowing him down. The dead didn't feel pain the same way the living did. And right now, Marcus was something in between. He pushed through the doors to the main store, and the fluorescent lights overhead began to flicker wildly. The spirits were affecting the environment now, their rage manifesting as electrical disturbances. Every light in the store strobed like a diseased heartbeat. Dale appeared at the end of the aisle, the man with the scar beside him. They both had their guns drawn. "Chen." Dale's voice cracked with confusion. "How the hell you locked me in with your mistakes?" Marcus said, and his voice wasn't entirely his own anymore. It was layered, harmonized with the voices of the dead. They've been waiting for someone who could give them a voice. Dale's face went pale. Whatever he was seeing wasn't just Marcus anymore. The scarred man opened fire. The bullet should have killed Marcus instantly. 3 shots, center mass, the kind of grouping that spoke to professional training. But the spirits moved his body with supernatural speed, making him faster than humanly possible. He dodged left, then right, and the bullets sparked off shelves behind him. Marcus closed the distance in seconds. His hand shot out, catching the scarred man's wrist. He squeezed, and bones cracked like dried twigs. The man screamed, dropping his gun. "You drove the truck," Marcus said, Jennifer's voice speaking through him. "You drove it the night you killed me. I remember your scar." Terror flooded the man's eyes. "No, you're not. She's dead. We buried her. You buried my body," Jennifer's voice hissed. "But you couldn't bury my rage," Marcus threw the man across the aisle. He crashed into a display of canned goods, didn't get back up. Dale was running now, sprinting toward the front of the store. Marcus followed at a walk. There was no rush. The spirits knew every corner of this place, every hiding spot, every exit. Dale wasn't going anywhere. The manager made it to the customer service desk before Marcus caught up with him. Dale spun, firing wildly. The bullets punched through Marcus's vest, his clothes, his skin, but the spirits held him together, refusing to let him fall. "What are you?" Dale screamed. "Justice," Marcus replied simply. He grabbed Dale by the throat and lifted him off the ground. The man's face turned purple, his fingers clawing uselessly at Marcus's arm. 15 years, Marcus said, And now all 7 voices spoke in unison. 15 years you've killed, trafficked, destroyed. You murdered us to protect your empire. You are going to murder him. Marcus's own voice broke through and traffic his sister. A 16-year-old girl. Dale's eyes bulged. Please. Give you anything. Marcus felt the spirit's rage reaching a crescendo. They wanted to kill him. God, they wanted it so badly. 15 years of helplessness, of watching Dale continue his crimes, of being unable to stop him. All that suffering, all that fury, focused on the man who'd stolen their lives, and it would be easy. Marcus could feel it. Just a little more pressure, and Dale's windpipe would collapse. Justice delivered. But then another voice cut through the chorus in his head. Amy's voice, from a memory. You're better than them, Marcus. That's why you wanted to be a doctor. Because you want to save people, not hurt them. Promise me you won't become what you hate. He'd made that promise on the night their parents died. When a drunk driver had stolen them away, and Marcus had wanted nothing more than to hurt someone the way he'd been hurt, he'd chosen medicine instead. Chosen healing. And he was still that person. Even with 7 vengeful spirits sharing his soul, Marcus dropped Dale, who collapsed, gasping on the floor. No, Marcus said, and the spirits inside him raged against the decision. No, we're not killers. That's what makes us different from him. But he deserves, Jennifer's voice protested. He deserves prison, Marcus said firmly. He deserves to face every family he destroyed, every life he ruined. Death would be mercy. Living with what he's done? That's real justice. The spirits howled in protest, but Marcus felt his will asserting itself, pushing back against their influence. His eyes flickered black to brown to black again. We saved them, Marcus continued, thinking of the girl in the crate, of the drugs that would flood the streets, of his sister sleeping unaware. We stop this tonight, but we do it the right way. There was a long moment of silence in his head. Then, slowly, the spirits began to recede. Not gone, but quieter. Accepting his decision, if reluctantly. Jennifer's voice whispered, then you'll need help. The others, Dale's partners, they're still here, and they won't hesitate to kill you. Good thing I'm not alone anymore. Marcus replied. He pulled out Dale's phone. Face ID still worked on an unconscious Manan dialed. 911. When the operator answered, Marcus spoke quickly. This is Marcus Chen at the Riverside Walmart. I need police and FBI immediately. There's human trafficking in progress, and multiple homicides to report. The bodies, he paused, listening to the spirits guide him, checked beneath the foundation of the loading dock. You'll find 7 people who disappeared over the last 15 years. He hung up before the operator could respond, then turned his attention back to the loading dock. The other men would be trying to evacuate the evidence. Marcus couldn't let that happen. The spirits surged forward again, lending him speed. Marcus found them in the parking lot, loading the crates into smaller vehicles. The girl was nowhere to be seen. They'd moved her first. Smart. Where is she? Marcus demanded, stepping from the shadows. The men turned, weapons drawn. There were 5 of them now. The 2 others from the truck had called for backup. The dead kid. One of them laughed. You're tougher than you look, Chen. Dale said you'd be frozen solid by now. Last chance, Marcus said. Tell me where the girl is, or I let my friends convince you. The shadows around Marcus darkened, and the spirit's presence became visible, not fully manifested, but enough. Enough that the traffickers could see the ghostly outlines. The hollow eyes, the wounds that had killed them. 2 of the men broke immediately, running for their cars. The others stood their ground, firing. This time, Marcus didn't dodge. He let the spirits take over completely, and his body moved with impossible precision. He was a blur of motion, disarming one man, breaking another's leg, sending a third flying with a backhanded strike that shouldn't have been possible from his injured shoulder in 30 seconds. All 5 were down. Marcus stood over them, breathing hard. His shoulder was screaming now, the adrenaline and spiritual possession wearing off. He was bleeding badly, his vision swimming. Where is the girl? One of them pointed shakily toward a van at the far end of the lot. Back. back of the van. Marcus staggered toward the vehicle. Behind him, he could hear sirens approaching. Good, the police were coming. But he needed to reach her first. He tore the van's back doors open. She was there, still bound, still terrified, but alive. Her eyes went wide when she saw Marcos covered in blood, eyes flickering between brown and black, looking more like a vengeful spirit than a rescuer. "It's okay," Marcus said softly, forcing his voice to be gentle despite everything. "You're safe now. I promise." He used his good hand to carefully remove her gag, then began working on her restraints. The girl was crying, trembling, but some of the fear was leaving her eyes. Who are you?" she whispered. Marcus smiled, and for the first time in hours, it was his own smile. Someone who couldn't stand by anymore. The police cars screeched into the parking lot, followed by ambulances. Marcus raised his good hand, showing he wasn't a threat. "Her first," he called out. "She needs medical attention." Paramedics rushed forward, taking the girl gently from the van. Marcus watched them work, feeling a familiar ache in his chest. He'd wanted to be one of them once. A healer. A savior. Maybe he still could be. An officer approached, weapon drawn but lowered. "Are you Marcus Chen?" "I am. You need to come with us." "There are questions. There are bodies under the loading dock foundation," Marcus interrupted. 7 of them. Missing persons from the last 15 years. Dale Hewitt, the night manager. He's inside, unconscious. He can tell you everything. He swayed, and the officer caught him as his legs gave out. "We also need a medic," the officer shouted as they lowered Marcus to the ground. Applying pressure to his gunshot wound, he felt the spirits begin to fade. Their purpose was fulfilled. Justice was coming. They could rest now. "Thank you," Jennifer's voice whispered in his mind. "Thank you for giving us peace." "Thank you for giving me strength," Marcus replied silently. One by one, the spirits left him. The last thing he felt was a gentle touch on his forehead, almost like a blessing, and then they were gone. His eyes returned to normal. Brown and human and exhausted, the paramedics were working on him now. Stabilizing his shoulder, starting an IV, Marcus let himself relax into their professional care. He'd made it. Somehow, impossibly, he'd made it. His last thought before the morphine took him was of Amy, safe in her bed, completely unaware that her brother had just fought hell itself to keep her that way. 3 months later, Marcus sat in the courthouse hallway, his shoulders still stiff, but healing well. The physical therapy was working. The doctor said he'd regain full mobility in another month or two, just in time to start medical school again. His acceptance letter, deferred, not rejected, was in his pocket. Apparently, stopping a human trafficking ring and uncovering 15 murders got you some leeway with the admissions board. Amy sat beside him, her hand in his. She'd been shaken when she learned what had happened, what had almost happened to her, but she was resilient. She was seeing a therapist, and the nightmares were becoming less frequent. "They're going to put him away, right?" she asked quietly. Marcus squeezed her hand. "For life. Multiple life sentences. Plus, he's cooperating to avoid the death penalty, giving up his entire network. The FBI has already made 47 arrests based on his testimony." The courtroom doors opened, and Dale Hewitt was let out in chains. He looked smaller now, broken. He didn't even glance at Marcus as the guards walked him past. Jennifer would have wanted him dead. Maybe some part of Marcus did too. But watching Dale face what he'd done, watching him lose everything, his freedom, his power, his future, that was its own kind of justice, the kind that let Marcus sleep at night. "Come on," Marcus said, standing and pulling Amy up with him. "Let's go home." They walked out of the courthouse into bright sunshine. Amy started talking about her upcoming biology exam. Marcus found himself slipping into tutor mode, explaining cellular respiration the way he'd learned it in medical school. It felt normal. Wonderfully, blessedly normal. But sometimes, late at night, Marcus still felt them, the 7 spirits who'd saved his life and given him purpose. Not haunting him, but watching over him. A reminder that some debts transcend death, and some justice is worth fighting for. He'd been given a second chance. He wasn't going to waste it. As they drove home, Amy turned up the radio, and Marcus found himself smiling. Really smiling for the first time in months. The store hadn't been empty that night. It had been full of victims waiting for someone brave enough or desperate enough to give them a voice. And Marcus Chen, former med student, janitor, and accidental ghost medium, had done exactly that.